Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. Let's start the regular council meeting for January 13th, 2025. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional territories of our Treaty 8 partners and our neighbors, communities of Fort Nelson First Nation and Prophet River First Nation. We further recognize the rights provided in our treaty, and we celebrate the contributions and the presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Are there any council additions to tonight's agenda? Staff?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. This is an opportunity for the public to provide comment on anything in the agenda. Is there anybody in the gallery or online who would like to speak to anything on the agenda tonight? Yeah, not this time. Yeah, you're on as a delegation, so you have a specific spot in the agenda for you. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Okay, there's nobody online? Okay. Adoption of the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Souls, second by Councillor Roper. I think I saw your hand go up. Sure. All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So there are 3 sets of minutes there. Committee of the whole meeting, December the 9th, 2024, special regional council meeting, December 9th, 2024, and the regional council meeting, December the 9th, 2024. For adoption, please. Moved by Councillor Gerwing. Second by Councillor Dickey. I saw her hand up. Were there any errors or omissions? Staff? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of adoption? Any opposed? Those are adopted. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to our petition. So we're very fortunate to have Shauna Malika here, the Executive Director of the Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society. And you can come to the microphone over here if you like.
Mayor Fraser, I'd like to declare conflict. I'm the bigger little brother of our delegation tonight, so I'm going to step out.
Thank you.
Right. Hi. Hi, Mayor and Council. See you later, John.
Actually, Councillor Roper, you can listen to the presentation. It's when we start the discussion that might, you know, if
council's comfortable.
It's if there's any discussion that leads out of this, then you can be. But listening to the presentation is not a conflict.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I don't have a whole lot of a presentation to give. Basically, the letter went out in the agenda. It's on your agenda. And so I won't reread it just to save a bit of time, but basically here to just kind of, explain our situation a little bit more, answer your questions, and just have some dialogue essentially about what we're approaching you for, and also what we do as the Literacy Society. I know there's often there's a lot of unknowns about us as an organization, and so it's always nice to have a chance to just kind of fill that in, especially the essential services that we provide in the community. A lot of folks don't really realize like the extent of what we do, and just the importance of it. So yeah, we're facing a funding loss through IRCC. It was our most substantial funder. It's basically directly tied to the tightened immigration targets for this year across the country. They've done a clean sweep, rural areas, big areas, whatever. And they've essentially left a service desert in the Northeast. So these are services for newcomers and immigrants. So Fort St. John Literacy Society was cut completely. Dawson Creek Literacy Society is cut completely. There's one organization in Fort St. John that is getting some funding, but essentially like there's just going to be a huge shortfall in services. And I'll just make a little addition. I would like to request, we're hoping to lobby IRCC a little bit for reconsideration. I don't know how much impact it will have, but I would like to request a letter from Mayor and Council to support that for us. It wasn't on the agenda, so I'll just sneak that in. It's always worth trying. But it's federal funding and we don't have a very strong voice there. So we're facing a huge cut. It's impacting all of our programs. It's going to kind of have a domino effect all the way down the line, including our advocacy supports, and it's going to have a huge impact on vulnerable populations. So newcomers, Indigenous people, 60% of our learner base identify as Indigenous, and residents facing systemic barriers like those with low income, mental health and addictions challenges, disabilities. And there are going to be critical gaps, essentially. If we cannot buy more time to source out additional funding to fill in this gap, we're going to suffer losses in terms of staffing. And it's just going to have a very deep impact on us. So we do have a very broad role in the community. We're a hub, we're a neighborhood house, and there's not a lot of funding for us. We, somebody once called us the Rodney Dangerfield of fields literacy because we get no respect. There's there's no, literacy funding is very minimal. And because it's just kind of spread out through everything, there's a literacy element in everything. It's very easy to ignore. So we're doing social services, but, we're very easy to dismiss from funding for social service organizations because we're a literacy society or a learning center. So it's a bit tough for us. We do our very best sourcing grants, fundraising, donations. There are not many oil and gas companies in town anymore. We used to have some success with sourcing donations. There's just not much out there anymore. So trying to be creative, trying to do some planning, and asking for support as well, asking for municipal funding. And so, so that's what I'm here to talk about. And also a project that we're starting as a creative way to gain a little bit of revenue for us and to fill a community gap. So we are starting a community newsletter. We've gotten some startup funds from Rotary. It's got a name now. The community has named it. It's called the Northern Pulse. And the first edition comes out February 3rd. So we're super excited. We've got some draft copies. Am I allowed to? Okay. Yeah. These are drafts. We populated this with kind of samples. So none of these businesses have officially bought ad space. We just put them in there so you could see what it would look like. But thanks, Kyle. So we're really excited about this project. We think it has the potential to garner enough revenue for us to actually do it and also take in a little bit of profit for the Literacy Society so we could stand on our own 2 feet. And it's a pilot project. We're hoping, once it gets going, it'll be successful. It won't be too much work on us, but, it's going to fill that need in the community, especially for those who aren't online. The aging population who aren't on Facebook, maybe don't want to be on Facebook, people who don't have access to the internet. So it's going to be, it won't be delivered to homes, but it's going to be in all the public spaces, A&W, Tim Hortons, McDonald's, the hospital, Grace Manor. You'll find it everywhere, sort of like a coffee talk, and then of course, free online. So we have taken on this project ambitiously. And I know it's something that the municipality has really looked into and done some public consultation. So I thought it was worth bringing up just in our request that if we were to receive some municipal support, it would help to leverage us to actually do this project, as well as keep our advocacy supports in place and buy us some more time so that we can, try to bridge the gap of this huge funding loss. So, we're doing our best. And if you have any questions, I'm here to
I do have
answer
a couple
them.
of questions, Shauna. So if anybody's going to declare a conflict, this might be the time.
Okay.
I'll declare a conflict as well, as I'm chair of the Literacy Society Board. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Okay, so you've explained a little bit for me. I'm understanding a little bit. I was trying to figure out if this was just a request for this newsletter project or if it was a bigger request. And I sensed from your presentation, and thank you for it. It was well said, and it gave me a better understanding of what your ask is for. The first question I had really was around the 30,000. Is it, intended to help you overall, or is it aimed at a printer, or is it, is there a budget that goes around with what that, or an overall budget that we might be able to look at?
So it'll, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can ask that
Um,
question, please.
It will go directly to staffing costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will help to keep us from having to lay off staff. And these staff will be delivering both advocacy services and working on the newsletter. So directly to staffing, because basically all of our other funding sources, they've had to be pulled from to cover our overheads to keep the lights on. So it's the staff that will suffer essentially. So this 30,000 will help fill the bulk of a person's position at the Literacy Society, who will work in both the project and our support services for the community.
Right. And that there's one person doing the support services now?
There are many,
Many.
so this would just be a small piece of it.
Okay. And is this an annual request or is it a one-time request?
We're hoping it will be a one-time. We're hoping that it will help to fill in a little bit of the pieces we're going to need to keep going this year and enable us to source out additional grant funding and to really put a lot of efforts into that. In the meantime, we do have a small contingency that we can fall back on. It isn't big, but we're just hoping to minimize, because once you lose people, they're gone, like they're going to find other jobs, and the power is in our people and in our staff. We have amazing people, and they really define our organization. They define the relationships that we have with people. So, my main goal right now is to keep from laying off staff, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you answered my question though, with all the discussion so what portion of your overall funding was the IRCC funding? You did say it earlier and it's just gone out of my head.
So it's 30% of our confirmed funding. And each year we need to source funding on top of that anyway, because we don't have enough confirmed funding to really run the Literacy Society. So it leaves us with a big shortfall. We have a shortfall every fiscal year anyway that we ambitiously go into and somehow like miraculously are able to source it out. But with this funding pulled, we just won't be able to make it.
Okay. And the lobbying effort is to the minister, Mr. Miller, or is it IRCC in general? The
Minister of Immigration, I think.
which is
Yeah.
Mr. Miller, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, we're just working our way through the channels of IRCC. They've got, different levels of people that we're communicating with. And
Okay.
so
those were my questions. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I happen to have questions that you answered already. I was just more along the $30,000, and yeah, you basically summed that all up for me. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Oh, Brenda, your hand's up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Councillor Yanex. Councillor Yanex, are you there? Your hand is up, but we're not hearing you if you're
There-
talking.
Can you hear
There.
me now? There
Now
you
we
go.
can hear you, yes.
I just want to acknowledge the good work that the society does do in the community. And I also understand all the gaps in their services that need to be filled. I'm kind of disappointed that the federal government continues to receive all these people in our country, but we don't provide them with all the programs and services that, are required. I know, and Shauna, you say in your letter there that 60% of the adult learners are Indigenous. Have you approached FNFN, Prophet River, or any of the other bands of the members that come and ask for help?
Yeah, for sure. So we do have a service delivery agreement with Prophet River. We do weekly on-site visits, and so they support us. They fully fund that. So that's a huge help having Prophet River. FNFN, we haven't really approached them directly. They've offered support in terms of like letters of support. But we haven't gone directly to them to request funding like we're doing now.
And one more, if I could.
Sure.
I know that you guys took over the other lease for the office next door. Is that, something that you can get out of? Would it, save you some money if you were able to, move everybody back into the original place? I just there's other businesses in town I know that have just laid off a bunch of people, and I don't know if as a taxpayer, if the taxes should go just to help, prevent the layoffs, especially with what our town's going through. I think there's going to be more and more of this coming.
So yeah, we did expand into the unit beside us because we were getting quite crammed in our little space. So we did have to give that up. We let the landlord know, and they amazingly came back and they reduced our rent for the year so that we could remain in that space.
There you go.
Yeah, so that was one of the first, we just moved into it, and so we would have had to give it up, but they were incredibly gracious. So I mean, in terms of, the impact of our supports, it's going to, if we do have to lay off and cut services and close our doors and everything, it's going to spread out to the rest of the community. The Northern Health Unit will have a lot of traffic because we help a lot of people with healthcare related issues. The Friendship Center.
I know the MLA's office will help with immigration and stuff, and we do have the Service BC office, help with BC, the housing applications and the senior issues and stuff. So some of it won't totally disappear if you're unable. It'll just go to Service BC and back to the MLA's office, because I knew that they do work on some of that now.
It will flood them back. Yeah, we get a lot of referrals from the MLA's office and Service BC. We get a substantial amount of referrals from Service BC. They also can't, they're unable to help people with computers. So if somebody is there and they don't have any sort of digital literacy or know how to use a computer, Service BC can provide them a computer, and that's it. And that's it. So it's really the one-to-one help. And this is the shortfall that we fill in. Service BC also, like, they don't help, like, it's more Service Canada things that we help with. EI, social assistance. It's the kind of one-to-one support that nobody really in the community can offer. Like the Friendship Center has a legal advocate who's there part-time, and she's run off her feet with people. We're very busy. Yeah, we're incredibly busy. We have an increasingly vulnerable population. Here we're seeing people arrive all the time for the affordability of Fort Nelson, but they bring a lot of different needs with them. And so it will flood out into the community for sure. If we were to cut
So
services.
thanks, Shauna, very much for
Thank
the
you.
presentation.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Thanks, Brad.
You provide a lot of very good information. I think there is a strong lobby opportunity there. I mean, particularly with some of these other agencies, that the MLA's office and sure sounds like, Service BC or Service Canada, even if you're able to mount a case with the minister, IRCC, about all these other things that they're, that you're helping with as a bonus to the funding that they've been giving to you guys. So I think there's an effort there. I'm certainly prepared to help wherever I can.
Thank
with
you.
respect to those lobbying efforts.
Oh, thank you.
So unless there's any other questions, I think we'll move on and let Councillor Roper and Councillor Gerwing come back into the room. We will just be discussing your letter a little later in the agenda. So
Okay.
thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, I
You're
really appreciate it.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to administrative report 0125, the Northern Rockies Communication Strategy Project. The floor is yours.
Thanks. So we'd hope that Alicia would be here because she's very eager to dig into a communication strategy for obvious reasons. But in any event, we started some outreach in preparation for the budget process and following discussions that occurred with council over the past several months around communication. And so in kind of just casting a line out there, we got in touch with Julie Rogers of Julie Rogers Consulting. So she basically came highly recommended from all of the communications personnel in BC that we've worked with in past or that you would encounter in a municipal setting. And I didn't think it would be that challenging to find an available communications consultant, but it's a highly sought after field. So we had the opportunity to meet with Julie on a couple of occasions, and she's pretty keen to work with us, being familiar with our neighboring communities and living in Prince George. She loves the North and is quite familiar with the North. So also based on her availability, we are and what we anticipate to be our own, frankly, with an upcoming emergency response season. We think that beginning this project as early as we can this year will allow us to put the focus in that it needs and actually be ready to implement it when the season starts. I'm trying.
Nobody wants to say the word.
Say the word. So her proposed project budget is $22,000, and that includes kind of the full suite of activities. So the deliverable ultimately would be the communication strategy, but shared our desire to have really active engagement with council, as well as internally and even public engagement to get a sense from the community of what their expectations or desires are. And then further to that, to assist us in getting the policy and procedures created to really make the strategy a success. So she wants to take a hard look at the tools that we currently use and see where we can kind of be most effective in what we're currently doing and what's feasible to do as well through that strategy. So she also offered some in-person communication training. So this would be for both council and staff. So it's crisis management in the communication realm, dealing with media, and then also, I think, just kind of getting everyone's minds wrapped around that strategy once it's been developed. And then she's also proposed the creation of an internal communication strategy. So basically ensuring that we're leveraging our 100+ champions that are our employees to share the messages that we're creating and be those kind of advocates in the community or ambassadors in the community and beyond. So the 22,000 includes that work as well. And of course, it would mean a departure from our procurement policy, because we would recommend that we use Julie versus going to market, although we could always do that, but it begs the question of what we might get in response in terms of familiarity with a community like ours. So that's a summary of that proposal.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the corporate manager? Go ahead, Councilor Andrews.
I had two. My first one was, what's a WOT analysis? SWOT, sorry.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
All right, makes a lot of sense. I was trying to think of like, I don't know. I had nothing. And then I really like this council and staff communication training, and that's an in-person thing. And I was just hoping with talks with whoever we decide to go with, we could get some continued training documents, something like, because you get new council every 4 years, you get staff in and out. And that was just one, not a really, I guess I have a question. Yeah. And then I'll make a comment on, you were asking whether or not to go with Julie or go back out for an RFP. My concern with that would be, we have her price set here. We have her outline set here. We're kind of now putting her at a disadvantage. So I wouldn't feel good about it.
Anybody else? I'm very interested in this project, and we've been talking about communication for many months now, and, you know, from all different sorts of perspectives, although we have some good direction, you know, in the documents that we have. I'm really looking forward to pulling it all together and get this all on the same page. And when I say us, I mean all of us, all 100 and some of us that are, as you'd say, champions about what we're trying to do. So I have worked with Julie before when I was in the Peace Country. She is very, very good. I'm surprised that her rate is as low as it is. I think that we're getting her for a heck of a deal. But you know, I worked with her when she was a communication director in the city of Fort St. John, and know her a little bit. So, and I think she does good work, probably as good as anybody from a communication perspective. So I'd be certainly interested and prepared to support a motion that somebody might give on this. Anybody else? What are your wishes? There's a recommendation there. Oh, go ahead, Councilor Roper.
I would go ahead and move the recommendation that a 2025 special project budget of $22,000 be established for the development of a Northern Rockies communication strategy, including the creation of associated policies, work plan, tools, and resources, and the delivery of council and staff training.
Duly moved. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Andrews, is there any further discussion?
Does this address the direct awarding component of the project?
Not in the resolution necessarily, but that could be a separate motion or an amended motion, however you'd like to proceed.
I think we'd have a separate motion. Yeah. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, all in favor of the resolution? Are there any opposed? Online? Seeing none, that passes. I think a resolution to waive our normal procurement practice
Yep.
would be in order.
Yep.
So would somebody like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councillor Gerwing, second by Councillor Andrews. Is there any discussion on that? Waiving the policy, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Any online opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you. Brenda's online, I think, isn't she? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you weren't in here when she was asking questions of Shauna. That's right.
Yeah, I just put myself on mute until I.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Administration report 0225, which is the Ready Program 2024 Q4 update for our information. Staff, over to you, please. Ms. Penny, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, council members. For the purposes of the recording, I'm Diana Penny, Regional Health Liaison for the NRM. So the purpose of the report you have in front of you is the fourth quarter Ready report. The report will show a total of $18,509 were received by recipients of the Ready program in the fourth quarter. We had one new to community. We had one second-year financial incentive, and 7 received housing incentives in the fourth quarter. Incentives received by the Ready recipients for 2024 totaled $70,196. Condo 66 was used to house 2 clinical nurses out of Dawson Creek between November 10th and December 15th. That is pretty much it for the report. However, would like to ask a question. Would this type of report be something you'd be interested in having on the hub quarterly or presented quarterly? I'm good either way, but I just thought I'd ask that question.
Council's thoughts? I want both. I'd like you to come because I have a question, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I like it on the hub, but I would like the ability to ask a question, should there be a question. But if it was on the hub and then there was some kind of place on the agenda to, yeah.
I was gonna be much the same as Councilor Gerwing. I would be fine with it going on to the hub, and then if a question were to arise, if we had the email notification, here's your new quarterly report. And then if that was enough in advance of our meeting, we could send an email to Scott, like, oh, hey, we would like to have a question on that. And then we could arrange for whomever to be there, or we could just ask the questions that way. I'm not sure. But I would like the opportunity for a question for sure.
Okay, may I respond?
Yes.
Yeah, that brings up a really good point. Could we not just ask the question and like send it to all of us and then reply all and it just gets out there, like we could be efficient that way? Just a thought.
Councilor Roper?
I prefer the in-person
Okay.
portion, and that also gives the public an opportunity to see the presentation as well as ask questions themselves if they have any. So
Great.
I'd like to see it on both, but I enjoy your visits very much.
Anybody else? Okay, that should give you some feedback with respect to whether you should come or not come, or whether we're being efficient or not.
All good.
I did have a question about, what was it? Remind me of the overall budget with respect to this program. Do you recall? Probably not, right? Yeah, okay,
I don't have it right here.
yeah. I know, neither does anybody else, but
So the budget for your cash incentives is 55,000 annually. And the welcome packages is 22,500 annually. And then on top of that's the housing. So it's probably closing in on $100,000 if
Yeah.
you combine all those things together.
and which this report is doing, right? It's combining everything together, so we're within budget
Yeah,
easily
absolutely.
this particular year.
Yeah.
Good, good job.
All right, clearly, I'm thinking this needs to be there.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions? Do we need a motion to receive this report, or do you need to be, no, okay, so we receive it verbally with our thanks, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that brings us to annual report, or sorry, administration report 0325, which is the interim audit report and the audit planning report. Tony's here to take us through that. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Yes, I am. Provided for your information is both the audit planning report that the local auditors have provided, as well as the report from their interim audit, which they finished up in November. And just basically, I wanted to highlight that they have provided in their interim report, audit report, 3 items that we'll be addressing, which have been brought forward at the final audit for 2023. So as we're not going to use the term for that big event that happened last May, that delayed some of our activities this evening, we've set out how we're proposing to rectify and come clean before we get into the final audit this year.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Pike? I know you're going to address these 3 issues. Is there any, with respect to these, is there any fraud risk with respect to the way that well, I guess these recommendations have been made. So, you know, we're talking about
Yeah.
visa approvals that are coming in after. We're talking about journal entries that can not necessarily being. So is there any risk of fraud there? In your
Certainly there can be, but essentially what we have is we have undocumented processes. And
Right.
so without the process being documented, the auditor doesn't have the ability to follow through the process.
Okay, so it's not necessarily that there's any foul play here. It's really just
No.
that.
It-
It's just
Totally.
finishing the procedures or making them complete. I guess that's what we're after.
Absolutely, and I always challenge the auditor to find me something because I believe that we've got some pretty darn good processes in place. And if there are things we can improve upon, I welcome the suggestions.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions for Ms. Pike? Thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you very much for the report. We receive it verbally and with our thanks.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Okay, that brings us to 8.4, which is the water use restriction bylaw 232/2025 for first, second, and third readings. We've had a lot of discussions about this already, but welcome, Jasmine.
Good evening.
Yeah.
So I'm just here to circle back to the water use restrictions bylaw. In November on the 29th, staff brought forward a report of the first draft of the bylaw for initial review and comment. Since that time, we have adjusted the draft to incorporate council's proposed adjustments. The draft has been reviewed by our legal team, and now we've brought it forward again for further review and consideration for first, second, and third readings.
Thank you for that report. Is there any questions? You gave us an opportunity to beat the heck out of it already, so I think we're all ready. So, Councilor Andrews?
I'd like to motion that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Water Use Restriction Bylaw number 232/2025 be given first, second, and third readings.
Do I have a seconder? Councilor Souls. Any further discussion on the water use bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Opposed online? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to correspondence. There are two pieces of correspondence for discussion. Two letters of requests for support. Can I have a motion to put those on the floor for discussion, please? Moved by Councilor Gerwig, second. Yeah. Thank you. Second by Councilor Andrews. Names just went right out of my head for a second there. All in favor of having a discussion about these two items? Are there any opposed? Thank you. Councilor Enax, your hand is up.
Yes, I need to declare conflict. If you put me on mute, I would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. We put her on mute? Perfect. So there is there letters? Is this where there was a missing?
Yeah, that's why he's got that in here.
That was
the last one I'm confused by the name at the top. That's what happened there. Yeah, okay. Okay. Council's thoughts.
I think in the spirit of efficiency that I would support having a letter wrote to the Tourism and Events Society that can be included with any of their grant funding requests in a similar fashion to the one we have in front of us from May 29th, 2023.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Andrews. Do I have a second or Councilor
Second.
Roper? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Take the Councilor off mute.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. 9.2 is a letter from Mr. Stanek, President of Phoenix Theater Society, request for a resolution of support.
I'm gonna step out. I'm employed with the society, so.
Thank you. Don't go very far. So council's wishes, this is a letter of support for a project that the Phoenix Theater would like to do and a request for funds from NDIT, I believe. Thoughts, questions? Go ahead.
I know that Mr. Stanek isn't here, but if, this isn't gonna affect how I'm voting, but I'm just wondering, in the letter, it says that 70% of NDIT will cover 70%. I'm just wondering where the Phoenix is accessing the other 30% is my question. But other than that, I have no problem in supporting the request for this letter.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make that a motion.
Please do.
Do you need me to say it again or
For
in
the- for
the
the-
spirit of efficiency? I would like to make a motion sorry, to provide a letter of support to the Phoenix Theater in their grant application to NDIT.
Thank you for
You're
that. Do I have a seconder? All around the table. Counselor Dickey. All in favor? Opposed? I'm sorry, Counselor Enox, your hand was up or was it still up?
I was just seconding, but you didn't look. It's all good.
It's a full moon up today.
Wow. Okay, that passes. Thank you. Okay, there are how many pieces of correspondence? There's a whole bunch of correspondence pieces here for information. Somebody like to move all of them for information, please. Okay, moved by Counselor Gerwing, second. Second by Counselor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Well, that takes us to my last page, all the way down here. There are no new, there is one piece of new business, and that's the Northern Rockies Community Fire Smart Resiliency Committee. Sorry? Yeah. So I'm very happy to present you the terms of reference that has been developed online. I think by the committee made it clear that they wanted to do some of the, as much as they could online and using Box. And I certainly thank our staff for getting the Box site up. And I certainly thank everybody for their input with respect to the terms of reference. It's not often that a terms of reference is developed and it hasn't been approved by the group, but they were all pretty happy with it enough that I could bring it to you in advance of our first business meeting, actually. So Mr. Cavalier worked on it. I worked on it. Some of the committee members worked on it, and I think we've got a pretty good product there now. I would like to see one addition, which I had forgotten about, and I don't think anybody else thought about it, and that's the reporting expectations of council. How often do we want that committee to report to us and or the public, the general public? So I throw that out there as a question so that we might be able to add it before we consider approving this. I think whether it's annual or semi-annual with respect to the public, I think that's fair game. And with respect to reporting to this council, I'll be sitting and reporting generally, but whether or not you want an official sort of both chairs sitting here, making a report to you, I'm interested in your thoughts on that. Councillor Souls, did your hand go up? Yeah, please.
Yeah, it was just given the volatile nature of our environment at this point, like that, a communication strategy around this particular issue is one that I would like to hear lots from that committee as soon as we can, so that we're kept in the loop, because I think our community is expecting, well, I know for a fact it's expecting that we have some communication going on of what we're doing in the face of, I mean, it's too bad. It's learning the lessons from LA are right in front of us right now, and we don't want to be that place. But so communication immediately is important, but having a longer term reporting, I don't know what we would, I really don't have an opinion on that, given that we need immediate action.
Please.
Yeah, so I echo what Councillor Souls said. I was contacted already 2 times today about what we're doing, what we're not doing, what this committee is about, like a lot already. And so I would like to get either access to the draft minutes, because like the way it works now is the minutes are prepared and then they go back to the committee for adoption and then they can be released, right? But if the committee is only meeting, I don't know, every 2 months or every month or whatever.
Every 2 weeks.
Okay, so that, but there can be quite a delay in getting the minutes, right? And so because this, I think that this is going to be a really active committee, and there's going to be, and there is a lot of talk in the community. I think we need to get that information to all of council as soon as possible so that we all have access to the same information. So I would like to see something like as soon as possible. And then in terms of formal reporting, I think again that this is going to be a very active community committee, and that they are looking for action items. And what I foresee happening, not being on the committee, but knowing the people that are on the committee, I foresee that there are going to be action items that will be coming back to council for approval or try to find funding or whatever that happens to be. So I anticipate those action items coming out quite regularly. But in terms of formal process reporting, I think to begin with, I would like to see it quarterly.
I'm just writing notes.
One
And
quarter.
this would be to council. So what I've got is you'd like to see the draft minutes to council. You'd like to see the action items coming to council as they are being developed, and a minimum quarterly report to council. More formal report to council. Okay, what about the public? The committee reporting to the general public. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I do, but I would like to hear from the committee.
Okay. And that's, thanks for reminding that this terms of reference is actually a living document, right? So it's not like we have to get it right the first time and it never gets changed again. It as things comes forward, they'll ask, they'll recommend an amendment, and then we can make that amendment at the time. So public reporting. Is there any other thoughts besides the ones that I've captured from Councilor Graham? Go ahead.
Similar, I was thinking even like preseason, postseason, or just presentations to council, and like, here's what we did this season, here's what we're planning on doing, and then prior to the season, here's what we've got accomplished, we're ready to go, this is what we're doing. I would like more of like a biannually report to council, but then having project updates. Like an FYI, here's this project's supposed to start next week. This project ended last week. Maybe have like a monthly report or just a project report of, so to speak, like here's what we're working on. Here's what we're trying to do. And then for the public, I would just like to see something regular. Like if we make it a quarterly report, if it's a bi-monthly report, just something that go out, hey, here's what we're doing this season. Here's what we did last season. Here's what's going on. Here's what we've done.
Yeah. I would expect to be making a report at the council meetings because it's something I'm attending, right? So it wouldn't be all encompassing. One of these other reports would be, but at least to update you every council meeting with respect to sort of what's going on there. Councilor Roper?
Are these, will these be open meetings, open to the public? Will there
That hasn't been decided.
Will there be a
yet.
gallery? I
That-
mean,
yeah.
if someone's really interested, they should have the option to come and sit in. I know that that meeting at the Woodlands last January, I just sat in on it and it was very helpful for me just as someone from the outside looking in. So
So that's a question that I'll put to the committee on Thursday is open, whether or not the meetings are open to the public. And that's something that could be in the terms of reference as well, right? Once they make a public meetings. Okay.
Just the work of the committee between now and April or the beginning of May, it'd be very helpful to make sure that the first fulsome report that actually comes to council and then is disseminated to our community happens before May. Just that's
There's some committee members who started a countdown, so.
no, I just,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying is that there's people that the season in May, like and those of you who have the opportunity to go flying, you will notice that there's been no change out in the landscape. It's very much where it left off last year exactly. And so we're not talking of those, we're not saying those words today, but we're talking about how in May we might see some EOC activity again.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the role of the committee. So the committee is going to be discussing planning or activities or action items. They're going to then make recommendations to council, and then council will decide whether that is moving forward as a project, and if so, how. So we will also be updated on activities via that as well, correct?
That's my understanding. I mean,
Okay,
we've got to
that's
have
the
the
way I've
first
been
business.
explaining it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we've got to have our first business meeting and see if that's acceptable to the committee, obviously, because we just haven't talked our way through all of that. But that makes the most sense, that they're making recommendations to council. Council then, in our budget and our wisdom, I guess, makes a determination as to whether a project needs to move forward.
Yep.
And if we choose not to, I suspect there will be feedback to the committee on why not. If we do, then we'll go through the procurement process that we have to make sure that we're getting the right people to do whatever the projects are. Could some of the committee members be the people doing them? Yeah, they all have the ability to go through the procurement process, right? And either get those projects or not. If depending on budget, there might be some volunteer work that group might want to do because they feel the project is important and yet we can't seem to find the wealth to do it. They may want to take something on. And I'm sure it goes through the same procurement process, but what it might end up happening is that we end up with a budget from them that looks, making sure they have the ability to do the things, making sure that insurance is covered off, the money for the insurance is covered off, that sort of thing. So I'm open to everything that the committee is interested in doing, but I think generally it comes back to us and goes through the procurement process. We'll have that, and at one of our meetings, we'll have that conversation with the committee, because they may think that they're going to be very, very active, on the landscape, and that can be a problem for us.
Yeah,
No
I
doubt
think
about
to
that.
ensure the success of the committee, everybody needs to be understanding the roles.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
and
anyways,
I'm-
I think that's really important. But I wanted to ask, at this upcoming meeting, are you going to be discussing the co-chair position? It's because
So if we're prepared to accept this tonight, I would expect that you would appoint me as one of the co-chairs, as it says in here. And
the committee.
the committee then would elect on that first meeting, right? As we have the discussion about the terms of reference, as soon as that discussion is finished, we would elect the co-chair. The committee would elect the co-chair.
Okay.
On Thursday's meeting.
So I don't know that we can accept these terms of reference because we don't exactly are unsure about the reporting mechanism, but I guess we could accept it as written right now. And because it's a living document, it can come back to council after you've discussed with the committee the reporting process. Is that what you envision?
I think the only one that's outstanding is the public reporting. And I'd like us to just, if we just put in there the reporting that you've requested, the notes that I've taken from our perspective, that we've added this. And if we put in there twice per year, and if they think that's too, you know, the public reporting to, like, to me, the twice per year is prior to the season and after the season. And that's at least, that's twice. And if we put that in there, you know, and then this is the terms of reference that's acceptable to the council. And then, if they would like, we'll have the discussion about it, if they think that's achievable, and if they don't, I'll come back. Is that-
Yep, and sorry.
Because
to-
I would like I'd like the committee, and I think the committee would like to see a terms of reference passed by us
Agreed. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and ready to go at their first meeting, so that they know. And then, then the discussion doesn't revolve around necessarily the wording of the terms of reference.
Mhm.
It revolves around implementing at the very first meeting.
And the reports that the reports that are coming to council from this committee would be public, right? So
Sure.
that is another reporting mechanism to the public, so.
That's right. They'll be public.
Okay.
And I think once we can have a discussion about the draft minutes. You know, because there may be more than one person taking minutes. They got to get together and do that. For sure, the approved minutes are going to be public. I don't know that the draft minutes would be public. What's your take on that, corporate officer?
So the moment that we draft a set of minutes or write a set of minutes and publish them, those are essentially the draft minutes. So like most of our draft minutes for the December 9th meeting were available last week, for example. They come as part of your package. And
Right.
so we also send a notification once they're available. So if you said that the meetings are occurring bi-weekly, then I would assume that the minutes will be available in advance of that next meeting. So they could be created by the recording secretary in the days to follow the meeting and published and available immediately to everyone publicly.
So even the draft,
Yes.
so it's a watermark draft, obviously, because it hasn't been accepted by the committee at the next meeting yet. Okay,
And then we also at the end record adopted on and by whom.
right.
So then that verifies that it's an adopted set of minutes and they're replaced. I was just gonna mention, so council's procedure bylaw speaks to the fact that standing and select committee meetings must be open to the public.
Oh, okay.
So if we're considering this committee as a select committee for the purposes of the charter, then it would be open to the public.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So that has to go under this section. That's an addition that would go under meetings, frequency, administration. So I'm putting this on page 69 of 71 under meetings, this committee's meetings will be open to the public. Because legislation requires it. Right?
And additionally, we're required to provide notice of the meeting 24 hours in advance. So at minimum, the agenda would be published publicly 24 hours prior to its occurrence. So then that's advising whomever's watching or subscribed that the meeting is occurring and available for attendance. Terry, you want to come to a mic?
So while Terry's coming to the mic, I'm just wondering, does the terms of reference then need to include how the committee might deal with members of the public that wish to speak to the committee?
Agenda.
Much like we do, right? Okay.
So Terry just advised that this week's agenda is already available.
Yeah.
On iCompass.
Where is it available? On?
It'd be under committees, agendas, committees.
Okay.
Yeah. It's linked in the hub. Yeah.
You must do all of our guys.
How very efficient.
So, yeah, so, That's a question that I think I need to put to the committee. Whether or not they want the public to have the ability to speak to them during their meetings, because there's so much to cover in these meetings that I'm worried that in the short term, it could take an awful lot of time, right? So I'm not gonna make that decision. I want to talk to the committee about that. So that's a question that we'll put to the committee. But with respect to under meetings, so I've included that this committee meetings are open to the public. I've added under reporting that the reporting expectations draft minutes will be distributed to council. Action items will be reported to council as they are developed. Formal reports to council will happen as a minimum quarterly and at least once and after the season for the public. Once before and once after the season for the public. Are we comfortable with that? Those additions, you're shaking your head. So, can we have a
Yes.
resolution to accept the Northern Rockies Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Committee terms of reference?
I would make that.
Moved by Councillor Gerwing, second by Councillor Souls. Any further discussion with those additions that I made? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, not about the terms of reference, but about this committee?
Sure.
I'm just wondering if there is representation from the CF Corp on this committee. And
This-
if not, should we recruit someone?
That will be, that will be for the committee to decide and make a recommendation to us.
Might you ask that question at the meeting?
I think that topic will be coming up.
I think so too.
That's,
Not
Yeah.
sure who has been
and that's,
contacted today, but
yeah, that also becomes the community force determination as to whether they'll put somebody there. But a request can be made, it can be made through to us, and if they put somebody forward, then we get that opportunity to appoint them. Right, and so there was another question that came up that some of you may or may not have heard, and that's the whole liability issue with respect to these folks. It's another reason why we need to, as a council, appoint these folks to this, right? It gives them then it extends the protection of the municipality and through MIA to these members for the work that they perform on the committee and the recommendations that they make to council. It doesn't allow them to go rogue with a match, and start doing burns, but it allows them to do the work on the committee, and they're protected from the decisions that the council makes at that point. But they've got to be appointed by council to do that. Okay, so we have included the reporting requirements. We have approved terms of reference. I will need an appointment from the council to, as for the terms of reference, to allow me to be one of the co-chair, reporting to council and staff.
I would make that.
Okay, Councillor
Whatever.
Growing. Would like to,
Appointment?
let the mayor be appointed the co-chair of the Northern Rockies Community Fire Smart and Resilience Committee. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Souls, is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. And that was the third thing I had for that. Okay. He's leaving. I was just gonna ask him if he had anything he wanted to say. Apparently not. Okay, are there any council reports? Councillor Gerwing, please.
Well, I haven't seen you all for a while, so I need to go back to December. So finishing off 2024, I attended the Yeah, I
Oh,
have.
one page, okay.
busy.
One page. I thought it was that stack that you had. in
Oh,
front of
gosh,
you.
no, but I have been busy and efficient at the same time.
Oh. Okay, can I just interrupt you? Counselor Enox, do you have a question about the last item or your hand up because of a report?
Because of the report. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get to you right after Counselor Growing's finished with her.
You bet.
Efficient report.
There you go. I'll be very efficient. So I attended the BC Rural Health Network AGM on December 11th and the NCLGA board meeting in Prince George, December 14th and 15th. It was a full day of meetings, and just a reminder that their AGM takes place May 12th to the 15th in Prince Rupert, so put that on your calendars. And just out of that meeting, I just wanted to highlight for council that the president, Judy Greenaway, is on a committee looking at updating the Local Government Act. About 5 area associations are represented on this group, and they will be looking for support from all local governments. And the key point that they're investigating right now is defining the authority, especially as it relates to emergency management. So lots to consider there, and they're just in the exploratory stages. So I'll keep you informed, but I just wanted to let you know in case you see traffic coming your way. December 17th and January the 10th, I met with Stephanie Weimer from Cave 7 Productions. So Cave 7 is currently producing a documentary on healthcare in rural and remote Canada, and they are interested in meeting with some of our community members to discuss what healthcare looks like for them here. More details on that to follow. And I just think it's really cool that there were several organizations across BC that recommended to Cave 7 that they talk to us here in Fort Nelson. So,
And particularly you, Counselor Growing, for all the work, for all the hard work. You're being recognized for all the hard work that you've been doing with respect to healthcare.
thank you. Now I'm embarrassed.
Don't be.
December 18th, I attended the open house hosted by our new MLA, Jordan Keeley. I was able to speak with him on many topics, including healthcare, the rail line, wildfire response, the North River closure, and lack of economic development opportunities in the NRM, and etc. And January 7th, I attended the Grace Manor Board meeting. January 8th, the Lamplighters Hiring Committee. Can't make the announcement yet, but there's more good news happening there. And really good news. I'm so excited about this one. January the 10th, I attended the CHP, and Annette Uyghur, so our HSA for Fort Nelson General Hospital, has secured funding and hired a full-time ultrasound tech in Fort Nelson.
Nice.
I know. The only thing that we have to worry about is he or she has to go to Dawson Creek for a couple of weeks training. You know, the last time we sent
Yeah.
somebody down to Dawson Creek for they didn't come back.
Yeah.
But Annette assures me that he or she will be coming back. Yeah, so that's it. Yay.
Thank you. Counselor Enox.
Mine will be really short and sweet because my life's kind of chaotic right now for the past month since the closure of North River. I just like to acknowledge again 2 deep freezes ago. One of our doll drivers, Ryan Goosey, stopped and helped a traveler on the highway at -40. Warmed him up after the poor guy was out in the cold for a couple hours. Fed him and gave him something to drink and brought him in town. So
Nice.
thank you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been away from the community and thank you to Deputy Mayor Goering for dealing with some of those meetings, a lot of those meetings. So thank you very much for the work that you've been doing. I have been speaking to some people with some things that are happening around the community on the phone that I hope are economic development opportunities that I hope we'll be able to get to some kind of an announcement on in the future coming forward. So good news on the immigration front and also potential investments in the community. So that's all good. I've been spending a lot of time working with Terry, who's not here now, with respect to this wildfire resiliency committee and trying to get, there's a lot of folks there who have a lot of really, really good ideas. And, you know, I think that my role may be tempering expectations a little bit. We'll have to see how it unfolds. Lots of emails and of course, lots of discussion around trying to get that terms of reference moving forward. So thank you for the work that we've done tonight to move that forward. They really were not looking forward to us having to wait until the 27th to have that done. So I expect that there'll be more of that coming from them. And, you know, working on over the email and through Box, I think that committee will get a lot of good things done efficiently to be able to present to us every 2 weeks, probably from now till the season may start. So, yeah, so that's what I've been busy at. Anybody else? No business outstanding?
Mayor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we realized that the piece of correspondence from the Literacy Society wasn't listed in your correspondence section.
Oh,
So
did I miss that?
no, it just wasn't there, so it didn't queue for discussion. So I'm not sure how you want to address that.
Okay, we should have that discussion right now. With
Or we
respect to
could
what-
bring it back at a future meeting. It's up to you.
No, I think we'll address it now. And well, everybody's, please. Okay, so we have a piece of correspondence here from the Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society. Can we put it on the floor for discussion, please? Moved by Councillor Dickey, second by Kyle. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Great presentation. I think she, you know, she purported herself and her organization well. They're looking for $30,000. You know, I don't think we have the ability to just give it to them. It probably should go to our budget discussions, right? So any thoughts other than that? Please, Councillor Dickey.
I really appreciated her presentation, but I think while I was reading her letter and listening to her, I think bringing it back to whether or not we have financial statements and all the things that the other people like the library and the Phoenix Theater, the package that they have to put together, I kind of thought there should be the same package of her budget for last year, what her budget for this year looks like, because $30,000, if they're 120,000 short, is that going to do anything? I really, really love their little newsletter idea of raising money through that, but I'd like to see a more detailed financial report to be attached to the budget, and that they go through the same process that the Phoenix Theater and them go through.
Yeah, so we don't have a process for that right now, right? Those others are, there's a very specific process for that in the budget. So I guess what we'd be asking is that there be a one-time request, right? For them, an exclusion for them to be allowed to submit a report, which then, or an application, sorry, which then would include all the same things that you're talking about. So, how could we deal with that? Could we deal with that with a resolution now, saying that we'll extend an opportunity for a one-time application to the Literacy Society?
Yeah.
For the grant name? For the grant name program, is that what?
For
we're
the
calling it?
grants to groups.
Grants to
As a group, as a grant to group.
Grant
yeah.
to community groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts, anybody else?
Just, she had a second request there that she asked as well. I really like your idea of the grants to groups and for that 30,000 to come up at budget time for sure. She was also asking for a support to lobby for to change their mind of the funding cuts, I believe as well, right? So yeah, I would be.
So two resolutions then, I guess, one to extend an offer to submit an application for the grants to community groups would be in order. So we'll deal with that one first. So do I have a motion for that? Moved by Councillor Dickey, second by Councillor Andrews. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, Councillor Enax, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just concerned that we're opening a can of worms
Mm,
that we're not going to be able to close, especially with what's going on in Fort Nelson,
Yeah.
economic wise.
Yeah, and you'll have an opportunity, you know, when it comes to the budget time to, all we're doing right now is extending an application, for them to go to the process. We also have running concurrently with this is the grants to, is the transfer, is the community, the governmental transfer, policy. It's a policy, right? That we're trying to write, which, yeah, which is kind of ongoing. Of course, last year it got delayed again.
Right. And I think too, maybe, you know, talk to Mr. Zimmer and see if, you know, if he can grab an ear or two and help with the, you know, get more support, and especially in the rural areas for the immigration.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And there are some things also happening kind of behind the scenes with respect to immigration which come to fruition, I think would help with the lobbying effort with respect to this funding. So can't say anything out loud in public right now, but you know, hopefully some of these things will all come to a head here and we'll be able to move forward. So the first resolution, or probably the first motion on the floor is to extend a invitation for an application to the grants to community groups. So I have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Are there any opposed online? Seeing none, that passes. The second would be, I guess, to support efforts, lobbying. What word do I want to use? To support lobbying efforts on behalf of the Literacy Society with respect to their
Reconsidering the IRC
Yeah,
fund cuts.
right. They're just funding.
Yeah.
Right, because it could go anywhere besides just IRC, right?
Yeah.
So just funding.
Yeah.
So can you read that one back to me, please? Because I was rambling. I was rambling there a little
I
bit.
did a lot of backspacing
Yeah.
on that. I have to support the lobbying efforts on behalf of the Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society for their consideration of funding.
Yeah.
Generally.
Moved by Councillor Dickey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrews. Further discussion on that? Does staff have anything they'd like to say about that? No. Waving my finger at you.
Does that mean don't say anything or?
No.
Yeah.
You're free.
No, I think it covers it. I mean, I just want to speak up just briefly on that policy piece. Is obviously we did have some delays. We had hoped to have it out, and I understand Councillor Enex's concern. I think the can of worms is going to open anyway with the policy. That's because we're gonna. So then it's council's process then to determine how to kind of corral that, and also determine how to prioritize or have a fund. So there's still things to do with that, but of course, knee deep or neck deep now we're into the budget process. So we want to get past that, and then it's on the list with Tony to move forward. She's well aware of the urgency of it. Just unfortunately stuff just happened out of our control.
Yeah, I think that policy will open a Pandora's box, right? So we'll have to be prepared for that when it when we start reviewing, you know, in a lot more detail than we have so far. So, okay, all in favor of the lobbying effort? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you very much. Is there anything else on this, or can we bring the folks back in? Okay, let's bring them back in. Thank you. Are there any notice of motions? Seeing none, are there any questions from anybody online? Seeing none, I'll need a motion to move into a closed meeting pursuant to section 9(1)B of the community charter. Moved by Councillor Goering, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We will recess while we have that in-camera meeting. Thank you very much.